hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
I remember the days when the Wild could score a goal. Remember when they were on a road trip beating Chicago, beating Toronto, Montreal in a thrilling game, and we all thought, boy, their troubles are at least, because they weren't at home, which they're coming back home now, behind them. Well, I found it sort of sad, Age. Last night in watching the Wild be shut out for a second consecutive game, this time against the Bruins, I found it sort of sad that the comparison on the local television carrier, or the Wild's carrier, was that, well, they got shut out, but it was a big improvement on Saturday night, which was an absolutely brutal performance. This was not a brutal performance. The Wild got off to a good start, I thought. Yeah. And then they went into a large lull, and then for the last 4 minutes of the second period, they looked like the 1970s Russian team. And then they came out in the third, and they lost the game. So I'm not going to cut them as much slack as FanDuel did. Yeah, the Senators game was inexcusable. The Boston game last night was not, certainly. You're going to lose. But that being said, I want to start with this, Age. What was up with the defensive zone play, the turnovers, and the inability to break out?
This was something that got pointed out to, I think, both of us on Twitter last night, which is, I know we haven't had that much snow here in the state of Minnesota this winter, right? So we're not all out there with our boots on. Yeah. Toques. We don't have the choppers out and the shovels, but we're not getting the shoveling in. Guys, go find a place with snow and work on getting stuff up and out of the zone, because these chip outs that I've seen last night, you have to get it past the blue line. You have to get it off the glass and out past the defenders, because you know what happens when you don't clear the zone? That leads to goals. That leads to more scoring chances. That leads to tired defensemen. It's crazy that we're watching a game, an NHL game, and we have guys that are making that much money each and every year, not able to do a simple. They're going to opt to do the backhand chip out of the zone. I'm looking at you, Marat Husnudinov. What are we doing? I'm looking at you, Yakov Trenin. Hard and fast, off the glass, over, and then you get your butt off the ice. It's not that hard, because when you can't do it, all of a sudden you're back on your heels. The Bruins, Pasternak, McAvoy, Marchand, they're all buzzing around you, and guess what happens? Your goalie gets left out to dry. So that was infuriating to watch, because that is something that I think goes back to college, to high school, to Bantam, Pee Wee, Squirt days. Like, just get it out of the zone.
Now, the Bruins are playing better as of late, but just to contextualize this a bit, they are right now out of a wild card spot. They're points-wise tied with Tampa Bay for the last wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, but they played 3 more games than the Lightning. So this is not, look, they're talented, but this is not the Bruins team of a couple years ago, which, was literally world beaters. This was a team that you can beat. The Wild has had great success in Boston, so that's not rare to win there. But yeah, the two things that stood out to me last night were the inability to break out, and in fact, to your point, turning the puck over. I mean, Trenin did it again. Hustudinov. I started to write down names because it became so infuriating. There was one point in the second period with a clear. John Merrill didn't get it out. And I mean, to what you're talking about, these are things that this has to happen. Like this is not it's hard to, it's hard. It's the NHL, but you have to get the puck out. The other thing that Lou Nanne focused on. Now, somehow the stats don't bear out what Lou said, but I think if we look by zone and time, it probably does. The stats said that each team won 50% of the faceoffs. But as Louis was talking about throughout the game, there were many key ones. It felt like in the Wild zone where this just continues to be a problem. At key times, penalty kill, and at times where possession is absolutely paramount, they don't win those draws. And it feels like it's been a reoccurring thing for far too long. We can debate, and we certainly have face-offs before, but the reality is this. If you lose the faceoff, you don't have possession. Therefore, you start off with a disadvantage off the faceoff. And those were two things last night between the problems in your own zone and the faceoffs that I thought were absolute killers because it definitely impacted at key times the time of possession. And Boston is skilled enough that if they have the puck, bad things can happen to their opponent.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the face-off numbers here. It looks like Eriksson Ek went 10 for 10 in the dot. Marco Rossi, a bad night, 3 for 7. Freddie Gaudreau was 7 for 6. Otherwise, mainly everybody else had like the occasional one. I guess Marat had a massive night. He was 8 for 3 in the dot. So that was your go-to guy there.
Okay, so that was your 50%.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, because when I looked at the stats this morning, it was 50% each side. So
Yeah.
like the face-offs were very equal, but when you watched the game, there were key face-offs that the Wild lost. And what I'm saying is Marat helped skew the stats in your favor, but they still lost really important face-offs.
Exactly, because John Hines is not going to throw out that fourth line for a massive offensive. Like you just got a massive icing. And Geeky and Trent Frederick are gassed because they've been out there for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Like you're not going to throw Marat Husnadinov out there to take that draw. You're going to want an Eriksson Ek or whatever. So that, the meaningless ones kind of drive up the overall, but it's just been a theme this season that this team can't win key faceoffs. Whether they've only gone to the 3-on-3 overtime a handful of times. I feel like that's been 50-50 at best, so I'm not going to lull on that too much. The biggest ones that have stuck out to me, Judd, are when they go down, and this is something that I saw, like immediately thought of last night when Zach Bogosian does the cross-check trip behind the net. He goes to the box. It's like, okay, who's going to go out there and lose this face-off? And then Pasta's going to go around the world to Marchand and in. Like, 5, 7, 15 seconds. We've seen this more than enough to where it's just a theme. It's like a curse on the back of the Wild this season where they just can't get past the first 15 seconds of a penalty kill without getting scored on because they lose that opening faceoff. And I don't know if they they have like very few drawn up faceoff plays right off the drop that they want to save them for super key times. I would say that's a pretty key time. I don't care if it's 4 minutes in the first period and John Merrill just took a tripping penalty.
I don't think
get out there and make sure you win the draw. Like, I don't care if you have to go back to that reservoir later. You have to win that face-off. And at most, tie somebody up. You just tie up that centerman because then you can create a little chaos. That's going to create that, the Plinko effect, the kind of like the pinball of there's so many skates and sticks now converging on this puck. It kind of breaks up whatever the opposition has planned to. You have to do something. It can't be a clean win to the wall or a clean win to the point like we've seen them allow happen more than just a handful of times this year.
So let's talk about the scoring as well. So now they didn't score a goal against the Sens. They got blown out. Embarrassing game. 3-0 last night. Swayman played well. Not embarrassing, not their best effort, but and I believe that you have to go back to, I've got this in my notes here. I believe that you have to go back to the end of the Montreal game. Gaudreau scored at 18:33 into an empty net the game last week against the Canadiens. I have it as a drought, no goals in the last 121 minutes, 27 seconds. All right. I know Kaprizov's out, but you've won without him too. You've won without him. You've scored goals without him. I don't know if we need to see some line juggling again. I don't know exactly what the key is, but here's the thing. They're coming home for 2 games before the Four Nations face-off break starts. They're going to play a good Carolina team on Thursday. They're going to play a red-hot Islanders team on Saturday. They have played terrible at home, 11-12-1, if I am not mistaken. So the fact that you're coming home does not, ease your mind.
No.
What does this team need to do to generate more offense? Because I think one thing is there has to be more consistency, and this is the inconsistency of this entire team that can drive me crazy. More consistency in going to the net, creating rebounds. They're not good enough to score a ton of pasta goals, and without Kaprizov, they're just not. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels to me like one of the key things here is rebounds, driving to the net, and really playing a hard north-south game. I don't mean going out and looking like you're playing a north-south game. I mean playing a hard north-south game. Feels to me like the last, well, the Sens game for sure, they did not. It felt to me like last night they came closer, but we still didn't see enough of that.
Yeah, and it's fun to, and I say fun because it actually hurts to look at this after every game, but it's fun to see what Minnesota Wild you got the day, like after the game, because you can go on moneypuck.com and they have like the map, it's a rink and it has all these shot attempts, scoring attempts. And it's fun to see, did the Wild just stay on the perimeter, the feeble Wild, or did they push hard to the net?
Yeah.
And actually, they got to the net a decent amount last night. Like if you look at their scoring chances, there's a giant green cluster right on the top of Jeremy Swayman's crease. The problem is he played pretty well. There was a couple chances where like Matt Boldy had a one-timer that he just put, if it's a few inches to the right, he probably beats the glove, but instead he didn't have to move his hand as much. Marcus Foligno had, I know, a big chance at certain points. Like they had chances where you look at the opposite end of the ice, and the Boston Bruins, very scattered. Like they went for the full toast, like we're going to get every crust to crust, we're going to spread it all out, and that seemed to work. They got chances on net. They had a tip that beat Fleury last night, and I forget how the second goal even happened, but they need to crash the net more, because what you see it come out at certain points in the game, and one of them that sticks out to me is there was a terrible power play that by the end of it, you had four guys standing on the Boston blue line, and Matt Boldy was kind of like weaving his way through the neutral zone. Do I want to dump it? Do I want to carry? Do I want to carry? Do I want to dump? Do I want to give it out for the wing? I don't know what I want to do. Just get in the zone. You got 40 seconds left. You haven't even taken a shot on goal yet. Get in the zone, set up the offense. First off, I'm still not moved by this power play. The special teams still, I think, need to be addressed, because it's just very uninspiring in my eyes. It's better than it was, which isn't saying a lot, but the zone entry has to be fixed. And this is, I think, what you're talking about goes in part with your north-south game.
Yeah.
You need to be charging downhill at the opposition. Do not allow them to kind of, I guess, match your speed. You need to blow past them, because frankly, you have some guys on your roster now that, especially with Marcus Johansson back, you should be able to beat these guys in that north-south, skate past them, get into the zone. Are you going to dump it? Are you going to look for the center lane option? You should have the ease of skating into the offensive zone and getting that first attempt. And then it's about kind of just corralling whatever rebound or miss shot. But I think your point bringing this up is exactly right. This has to be looked at, and they have to stick to that north-south game, because when they drift and they just kind of see like, oh, we're gonna go east to west, they have a terrible night. They just don't get,
they're not good enough.
They're not. They're
just not. I mean, it's no one's fault. Their best player, one of the best players in the entire league, is out. And so I'm going through the line chart from last night's game, okay? And I just circled a winger on every line who I want to see going to the net. Boldy, Foligno, who, by the way, I think does. I think he does quite a bit. Boldy, Foligno, Trennan. It's all Trennan's good for. Like, dude, and don't try to handle the puck. He tries to make plays like he has some skill. The man has no skill. Go to the net.
I want him to be Miley Cyrus, wrecking ball right to the front. I want you knocking over bodies. You don't need to be Pavel Bure. Like, just go to the net and be a body. That's all you need to do, Yakov.
He's not as good as he's not as skilled as Foligno, and Foligno's not exactly skilled. And then on the fourth line, which, by the way, I think had a really good trip. So I'm not. And then on the fourth line, Lauko, who I like a lot, who I think he's done a ton. But let's talk about Boldy, okay?
Okay.
Because I feel like he takes a lot of heat on this show, but it's only because I think the show thinks he's so talented. So good. But with Kaprizov out, I saw Boldy doing the pasta thing last night, circling the net, in fact, it's the old Kaprizov thing. I think Krill does that less now, but and look, Krill was great at it, but circles the net, comes out, goes around the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching Boldy do this, and I'm thinking, hold on, dude, you're on a line with Zuccarello. Very instinctive player, good passer, but I mean, and he's scrappy, but that dude loves he loves to shake and bake and see what type of play, and he's pretty good at that. I'm not saying Boldy doesn't have the skill to do that. I'm saying it's a misuse of his talents. And I don't want him doing that. I want him being in the slot. I basically want him to get his ass kicked every night. If he's not battered and bruised at the end of every game, I'm disappointed. I don't need to see him, and especially with Krill out on that line. And I know that Eck does grinder work as well, and I want to talk about that in a second too. But on that line, I want Matt Boldy with a bloody nose after every game. I don't need to see him pass like he can. I'm not saying he can't do these things, okay?
Yep.
He's got the skill. But on that line, watching him shake and bake and try and make a play and sort of play the Krill to Zuki role, and Krill's, let's not talk about Krill in the context of anyone else on this team. He's that special.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. With Matt Boldy, it just drives me crazy at times because it's like, dude, you have to know your role. And in fairness, Age, this became my biggest gripe with Charlie Coyle. It's like, you are be a power forward. That means you're going to be hurting at the end, not hurt. You're going to be aching and hurting at the end of every single game that you play, and you should be. My guess, and this guy's not as talented as Boldy, but Marcus Foligno probably is sore at the end of every single game he plays because of how he plays. The other thing, though, is with 2 complete games now, scoreless, and I'm not saying that this guy's playing great. I'm just saying from a skill standpoint, I think it's time again. And I think you suggested this like last week. Rossi, if you're going to have Boldy and Zuccarello play together, Rossi needs to go back between them, and then have Eriksson Ek for now, Foligno, Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
I would even consider, and the fact that Johansson, explain this too, and okay. I'll shut up in a second.
No, you're fine.
Explain the fact that Johansson comes back from a concussion last night. Doesn't look exactly right, by the way. He got hit a couple times and stayed down for long periods of time. It's like, dude, you got to get back up, unless you're hurt, in which case you shouldn't play. Mm-hmm. I would toy with Ogren going and replacing Johansson and make that line Ogren, Eriksson Ek, Foligno. Bump Johansson down to the third line. I would also move Lauko up to the Trennan spot, and Trennan is a fourth line player. He is a fourth line player. I know the fourth line's played well, so you might not want to break it up right now, but he is a fourth line player or a press box guy. That's it. But start with what are your thoughts on Boldy and how he's playing? And like last night again, it's not that he played poorly. He didn't. He had a bunch of shots. I didn't like the style.
He's like buying a Ford Mustang, like a big Hemi engine, but then you're using it to go pick up your kids from daycare. Like it looks good, and you're gonna get some oohs and ahs from the people in the parking lot, but all at the same time you're driving stick shift, so you're jerking forward, and you're like, I don't know, we got to get out. There's a stop sign. I don't want to hit any kids. Like, you're not built for that. If you want that, get a minivan. Get a compact SUV, a RAV4. But he's a sports car, and you got to let that thing get out on the open highway, pedal to the metal, and that's just not what he's doing at times. Like, you're exactly, he is a muscle car. Get to the front of the net, throw the body around, and it's not that we don't think. We absolutely know, Matt, that you are able to dipsy doodle and be in the skills competition, and if you want to. But your game is so well rounded. Like, you're a beefed up Swiss Army knife. Like, you have multiple tools in your bag. Use them. Don't rely on just one, because you got to recognize the different scenarios. He did, like you were saying, he was doing the pasta kind of let's skate around, blah, blah, blah. I would like to see him, and it's hard to do this because it's hard to say I need him to be Kirill Kaprizov, but try to establish the sort of passing to an extent, because I think we both know the pass happy twins right now, it's good that they're not necessarily there, with Matt Zuccarello. he's a great give and go type of guy. He is mobile, but I think what he likes to do is have the puck on his stick, survey, and find that one like precision passing lane. You should be able to work some give and goes in, or you feed to Favor at the point, he swings it down, and then while that second pass is happening, you're finding a cutting lane to the front that then is going to either get a slap pass or something towards you that you can redirect on net. You don't need to do it yourself. You can help orchestrate, but at the end of the day, allow Matt Zuccarello to be what he kind of is and wants to be, which is the conductor, because he's been doing that for his whole career. And plus, he just doesn't have the size to do what we are asking you now to do, which is go hard to the net and knock guys out. You have a good scoring touch, you have a good presence and a good frame. Like, that should be your job there, not the conductor role that I'm kind of talking about. When it comes to changing the lines, I'm fully with you. I'm actually
just tweaking too. I'm just tweaking here.
It's not like it's a massive change up, because and I'm a massive Marco Rossi guy. I don't want him traded. I know Jesse Pierce does, and I know she's not here to defend herself. But one thing I can admit is that I think at times, certain nights, he can show that he can be a guy that can elevate an entire line. Mm-hmm. But right now, he has shown me more that certain guys around him elevates his game, and then he's able to elevate them. It's like the ingredient works with a lot of dishes. Right now, I don't think it's working on that second line with Johansson and Foligno. If you put him back up, I think Boldy and him are going to do what they did the last time that they have really shown that they can play together. They played very well together in the AHL. I don't understand why there was ever a big doubt, like, oh, can they play together? Yes, they have a chemistry. And then Zuccarello, you can argue that maybe like you don't want two guys of that size on the same line. It's the top line. I don't really care.
Well, that's Boldy. He's big enough.
If they're skilled enough, you got to
do all the work. You got to do all the work. Sorry, 12.
Exactly. So Eriksson that comes down. I'm fine with him, with Foligno on that second line for the time being. And I think, I know I didn't really expect it to happen, but I wanted to see Johansson get eased back in before going up to the second line rather than just taking that spot right back. I thought Liam Ogren, even last night, it was a meh game all around from most people. He stood out at times to me as like, okay, he's at least generating something. He's driving the play at times. Yep. He's getting more and more confident. I would say reward him, because who knows how long his stint's going to be. We know Marcus Johansson's going to be here to the end of the season, and he's on an expiring deal. So if you burn a bridge and he doesn't want, I don't care. Liam Ogren's going to be here. Get him some second line minutes, at least see what he has. And John Hines is a reactionary coach. So if you don't like it after 20 minutes, 40 minutes, John, guess what? You got the final third period. You can switch it back. He's a young kid. He'll understand. Hey, Liam, it's just not your night. We're going to put Marcus back there. That's just fine. I will actually, though, push back because of how good the fourth line has been.
Yeah.
I don't think you can put Trent in there. I think you need to leave him.
Yeah.
And and granted, I think that's just credit to how good Lauko, Husnadinov, and Shore have been.
Yeah.
That those three are going, I think, very unsung. They had a really good road trip. I hope that doesn't just like deteriorate now that it's kind of been a few games. If this play is consistent by them, I mean, they are a very, very good addition to the team. And dare I say, like, too good of a fourth line to have Yakov Trenin now slot in and break that up.
4 years of this too. You know what? It's the one thing, like, I guess they would have to start to not play as well. But the second that they do, because I think Lauko brings something. I don't think Trenin brings anything. Occasionally he'll make a nice play, but the problem is, I just said it. He'll make a nice play. I don't even need him making nice plays. He's another guy. I want you at the end of every game to have nothing but ice bags. I want to walk into the locker room and see nothing but ice bags. I can't even see your face. There's ice bags, nothing but ice bags. I don't need to see you try to make a pass. I don't need to see you try to act like you have an iota of skill. It's okay. Everyone in life has their calling. I'm not good at sports. I'll acknowledge that. I'm not trying to play them. You are. The thing too is on Rossi and Ogren in particular, Age. I think the key to me is this too, and you might disagree with this. If a guy's not playing well and he's not asserting himself, I don't think that you promote him because, well, it might work. Now it's happened, but I don't think. But in both of those cases, I just think they're not in their best fits. Rossi with Johansson, who's a pretty passive player, and Foligno, who is who he is,
Mhm.
but it's certainly not like a skill guy. I think Rossi is best served playing with skill guys. I just think that
Yeah.
that's his thing, and when he does, you can see the water table rises for him.
Mhm.
In the case of Ogren, I'm with you. You know, he first got recalled, and he clearly is a confidence guy, which is fine. But you know, but now you're seeing some things, right? But it's just like you're seeing sparks here and sparks there, but you're not seeing a fire. But it's like, what would happen if you put him with, you know, more responsibility? Because I'll say this, I see him go to the net. I see
Yeah.
him do things, but you know, he's with Goudreau and Trennan. So like what happens if he's suddenly with Eck, who's a worker, who's a good player, but he's a worker, and Foligno, a worker, and Ogren's got probably more skill than Foligno. But in
And he's
both
a
cases,
and he's a strong skater. I see him go to the corner.
yeah,
Like he's
yes,
one of the first guys in the corner.
yes.
Even if he doesn't come out with the puck, it's not like dang it, all right, let's get back on defense here. He's hustling back every time. Like this
The
is a guy.
Montreal goal was
He's
nice.
got a motor on him, Judd.
Yeah, he stuck around. If I recall correctly, the Montreal game goal that he scored last week was on a rebound where he literally just stood there and waited for it, got it back, and it was a hell of a shot, top shelf.
Yep.
So in both cases of Rossi and Ogren, I'm not seeing guys who don't deserve it. I'm seeing guys who I say, are they really with the right players? And you haven't scored a goal in 2 games. Going to wrap up with one final topic after this, but Age, talk to us about our friends at Swing Lab before we do.
Yeah, right now that you want to stop by Swing Lab out in Lakeville and get fit with the all new. They're doing club fittings, all new 2025 products from Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, Mizuno, Cobra, Cleveland, and Srixon, as well as those big lab putters. I don't know if you've seen those, Judd.
Mm-hmm.
I might need to get one in my bag because my putting game is atrocious. They're professional club fitters. They use data-driven feedback. It's not just eye test. They have all this technology there that's going to put any golfer with the right clubs. Swing Lab will also be doing 2 different giveaways for 2 lower bowl tickets to Wild games. The first giveaway will run now through the 23rd of the month for the game against the Penguins on the 9th of March. The second giveaway will run from the 23rd to March 31st for the game against Dallas on April 6th. Purchase and club fitting required to be entered into the raffle. And also, they're doing lessons. Golf season right now, if you look outside, I'm looking at my window, it's frozen. It's a tundra. As we started here, they were icing the rink next to my house. I don't think I can get my chipping game going right now. But golf season is right around the corner, everybody. Minnesota's premier indoor golf facility, Swing Lab Performance Center, has PGA certified instructors to help any golfer's game. Swing Lab also offers individual one-on-one lessons. Do you want to go with a friend, maybe family? You both need to work on hitting the fairway. I know I do. You can get 2 to 4 groups for multiple different programs. Check them out in Lakeville. Go online to swiglabperformancegolf.com or give them a call at 763-453-5892. That's 763-453-5892. Swing Lab Performance Golf.
Awesome. Despite the fact that the Wild got blanked last night in Boston, they actually caught a break here. So the Jets beat the Canes. The Jets are now, if I'm not mistaken, 13 points clear of the Wild in first place in the Central. Dallas, which is in second place, lost to the Ducks 2-1. And Colorado, which would have tied the Wild in points if they had won against the Canucks last night, also got blanked 3-0. Wild again, before the 2-week break that comes up for the Four Nations tournament, has games against the Canes and the Islanders at the X, where they're essentially 11-13. What is your confidence, and what do you want to see from this team in what has been a baffling winter in sports here? Because the Timberwolves are 500 at home. I think they're like 13-13. And the Wild is below that. So what do you want to see from this team at home to give you just a little hint of confidence that when they come back and have that huge home schedule in March, it won't be a complete disaster?
I need to see. I mean, first off, I want to see better zone. There's a lot of little things. The blanket statement I'll say is I need somewhat of a bounce back where you're peppering probably at Kochekov, who's going to be in net. I know he started, I think, yesterday for the Canes, but with a day off, I assume they don't go to Freddie Anderson.
He's still out, no?
No, I thought he just came back and played his
did he? Okay.
500th career game.
Okay, that's probably right then. He's always hurt, so.
Yeah, he is.
Poor guy.
Unfortunately. I bet you they go to Kochetkov, and he is a good goaltender, and this Canes team is very talented, but you need to have some sort of resilient fight. You need to get a point there. I don't care if you lose in a shootout or overtime, but you need to at least show that you can not just roll over 3 games in a row. And then, you know what? I'm going to say I know the Islanders have been playing some pretty solid hockey, but they're still missing their superstar in Matt Barzal. You need to take advantage of that. You're at home. You're before a big break. There should be no gas left in the tank. That should be one of the hardest played games of the season, because the guys who are slated to go, I don't know if they necessarily should. I do think it's funny that Brodin is able to come back for 3 games before this Four Nations face-off. So because I think if it's 2 games,
talk about this next week with Jesse. I'm not happy about this.
Joel Eric Sinek is set to go. Philip Gustafson is set to go. I really need to see a win on Saturday against the Islanders, and that needs to be I'm not saying you need to blow them out like you did to the Canucks last year on I think it was MLK Day, where it was an 8-goal performance, a 7-goal performance.
Oh, crazy game.
That was a fun game. But you do need to win. You do need to win. I would say if a 4-2 game where you maybe have an empty netter, but you dominated play for 2/3 of the game, that's fine with me. You need to win. I would say I need, 3 points from the next 2 games?
I want 4 points. Screw it. I want 4 points. All right. Give me 4 points and come out and play hard for 2 games. So many of their problems at home are nothing more than self-inflicted wounds, right?
Yeah.
That's what drives me crazy. You don't play well at home. You don't come out, and look, you did against the Senators, you pulled the same stunt. You didn't come out and play. It is this team's key to winning is just so very clear. And John Hines, I think, has the right plan. I like him. I think he does a really good job. But he's got the right plan. And it's if they listen and stick to that plan, they're fine. And the Wild's play on home ice is one of the most baffling things. They would be neck and neck with the Jets right now still if they just played decent, not even great, at home. You don't even have to be dominant. If you just played decent, you give yourself some room there. And yes, you are correct. It looks like Freddie Anderson came back on January 20th from extended absence and has played since then. He played, let's see here. Yeah, I think he's back. In fact, he played February 1st. He lost 4-2 to the Kings. So We'll see who plays goal. Anyway, thoughts?
Really quick too. I don't know if you saw this, but only because you brought up John Hines and his coaching ability.
Yeah.
FanDuel, NHL, whatever, they put out the updated Jack Adams Awards odds, and at the top there, Spencer Carberry with the Capitals, and then very familiar face in the second spot with minus 430 odds, Dean Evison, currently with the Columbus Blue Jackets. They've been playing some really good hockey. And then John Hines in the third spot. He's got plus 1,800 odds. I think you're exactly right. John Hines, and I know some people are going to see that graphic, hear that stat, and they're going to be like, well, why'd they get rid of Dean? He's clearly a better coach than. Let's relax. First off, let's relax.
He's done a hell of a job.
He has.
I like John Hines more, but he's done a hell of a job.
I think Dean, with probably everything set up perfectly, his teams can play good, and that's what you're seeing right now. But I think John Hines is able to adapt and react more and work with more limitations.
Yeah, well, Dean's message got tuned out as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think Dean does a great job of, I think players like him, and I think that players, that's the key in all sports, but I think hockey especially, right? Mm-hmm. When you get tuned out, it's over. And that's the thing about what Hines is trying to instill here, is that he's got the right idea, and his style and what he wants, I think, from a schematic standpoint, is really, really good. But there's just certain games where it's you guys didn't follow it. It's just very, very, and you can't say that they can't win without Kaprizov, because they've gone through stretches where they've won without him. Mm-hmm. Now, in the playoffs, I have no idea, probably not, but that's where it's how do you play that well in Toronto and Montreal and then play that poorly against the Senators and then come back in Boston and you're sort of you're involved, but you're not as involved as you should be. Back on Friday to do a show off the Carolina Hurricanes game, of course, Judd's hockey show. Thanks for watching or listening.